Hey, it's Bree. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I was going to be making a couple masterboards of collage for my journaling, and so I decided to do it on here and film it so I can show you how I use them in my junk journals and how I make them and kind of my thought process. So I've been starting, let me see if I can find the pad. I've been starting them with this watercolor pad that I got probably from Michael's or Joann's or something. It only has 12 sheets, but it was on like clearance at my store, and these are really big. These are 11 inches by 15 inches, and so it gives me a really nice base because it's really thick, so it'll make really nice journaling cards or tags or whatever I want to use it for. So while I have this, I've just been going through these. I like to buy these pads when they're on clearance, even if it's paper I don't normally use. Like, I don't watercolor usually, but I bought it anyway because they all come with this amazing chipboard back, which is really, really great for making the junk journals, like actually making the cover for them. So I start with a piece of paper, and I use my own homemade Mod Podge, which is just roughly 50% like an white Elmer's glue and 50% water. So then you can kind of make it thick or thin if you want. Mine, I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit runnier. I make it a little thinner so it lasts longer, just because I'm cheap, I guess. And there's not been a problem at all with that. So I would definitely suggest making your own because it is dirt cheap. I bought a big jug of Elmer's white glue at like a Walmart or Target for 20 bucks, and it will last me, this is a quart size jar, 32 ounce jar, and it will last me maybe, I don't know, 10 of these at least. It's pretty cheap to do it that way. So what I do is I usually put a big light layer all over everything because it's so cheap I don't need to really worry about wasting it. And then I'll show you the type of items that I like to put on the masterboard. I just use a cheap foam brush. This one was used in gesso at some point, so it's white, but I mean, I don't care if it were to reactivate the gesso and get white smears on my masterboard. This is like really just whatever I want it to be. It does not need to be pretty. Oh, you know what? Just to avoid a mess later, I'm going to do this on my glue board, or on my glass cutting mat, which I've been calling my glue board, and that's what I call it to the kids. But it's actually just this We Are Memory Keepers glass cutting mat thing. Okay. So just a really, really light layer. And then I can add more if I think that it's going to not stick very well underneath. It's really, really hard to screw these up. Okay, since this is so big, I'll just start with one side here. There we go. Then I can make sure I'm staying in frame. Okay, so I like to use, have these old receipts, these vintage unused like receipt pads. I have some paper doilies. I have clippings from a newspaper. This is actually, I don't get the newspaper. It says March 7th, 2019. This was used as packaging when I ordered something online from like eBay or something. I have some vintage wallpaper, and of course book pages are really nice for filler. This is a vintage diary. Oh my gosh, diary. A vintage dictionary. That's French, I believe. It said somewhere. Yeah, looks French. No clue, but, and then some little words and things, so. All right. I usually do newspaper. Of course, this is drying while I'm, chatting. I usually do newspaper first because I don't mind if those get covered. That's not something that I want to be like an accent piece on here. So you just go and push it down, and I try to smooth it with my hand first, just because if you go in right away with that next layer of Mod Podge, it will probably wrinkle. I'm going to have my nails all done and pretty, and that only lasts about a day. So, add a little more. I try to go all the way to the edge for the first one so that it's, try to explain. So when I cut it down into journaling cards and tags, when you cut in between, if it's like not all glued down perfectly to every edge, it's going to be annoying. You have to go in with your little glue and try to glue it back down to the back, and I'll show you because that'll probably happen to me. So okay, so once you adhere it like that, then for decoupage you add another layer of glue on top. Glue sandwich. Alright. So my nails are pretty because I knew I wasn't going to be doing any work or crafting or anything yesterday because it was my youngest's second birthday. His name is Max, and he loves being told he's 2. Not that he knows what it means, but it's very precious. He had a great day. We had a Peppa Pig birthday party. So that's his favorite. And that's the other reason I usually do my fingers first instead of trying to just flatten it with the glue brush, because it will slide around a lot if you do that. Well, it does for me. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. But I'm not expecting my hands to stay pretty after this. This is like the cleanest part of the entire collage experience. And I try not to do the back side of papers when it has the advertisements on it, because I don't like that bright color. Like when I have newspaper on here, I want it to be typical newspaper print color. So, I mean, obviously, whatever side you think is prettiest. And then I'll do some book page. So I'm on a very squeaky chair right now, and I'm wearing leggings that are like, you know, completely polyester or whatever. So it is so loud. Oh my gosh. Every single little movement I make makes this loud squeak noise because my chair is like faux leather or something. It's very obnoxious. That's basically the point. The point is just to have everything completely covered so that when you do have journaling cards, it looks like everything is already covered on there. You don't have to add decorative pieces and stuff. And I'll show you the complete. I have a completed masterboard, so I'll explain a little bit better when I actually can show you having, like, when they're already cut down. I love these. I just got these off an Etsy shop that sells vintage items. These are just cute little receipts, but it was like, I have like over 100 of them. I only paid like $6, so. And that was like, there was no shipping because I bought, oh my gosh, I got some really fun books. So I got this dictionary from the same shop, and I'll leave a link to the shop down below. But I got this dictionary, and I got, sorry, I have an itchy nose, and I'm like, my hands are all gluey. I got a book of like children's songs, and I think it's for playing piano. I haven't looked very closely. I took all the pages out, but that's about as far as I've gotten there. But it's so cute, and the music pages are in perfect condition, and the book is from the 1930s. So I thought that was really exciting. I mean, I was expecting it to be a little bit more beat up than it was, but no, it was great. So this is just the carbon copy. I don't know if it's actual carbon copy for this, or if it's just a copy for you to write it on there, write, you know, the amount so you can give one to the customer and keep one. But I just like to do both because they're going to end up on completely different tags anyway. Okay, let's do a little bit of, you know, let me do one more book page in this big spot, and then I'll add some finer details. So I usually just start with all of my biggest pieces, and then from there, well, let me see. There's some little images, little teeny tiny images on the plate, so I could have one that has the alligator or it looks like a saw thingy. It's hard because it's not in English, so I don't know what that actually is, but whatever. Alligator's cute. So yeah, then it's going to be a lot less plain than it looks right now after I do all the steps, but I just like to start with all of the really, really big stuff so I can just cover the plain white page. In this dictionary, it was, oh my gosh, oh, I have it right here. It is, it's a dictionary, so it's thick, but it is a monster. It is so thick, so I'm just using pages out of it pretty liberally because it's beautiful. Beautiful pages, and it's really old, and it's 1951, I think is what it says. But yeah, it's awesome. All right. But I'm going to do a little bit of vintage wallpaper. And a little more. It's just so pretty. A little bit more. You really just cannot mess this up. Whatever you have on hand and think is pretty, use it. Okay, so I've got to rearrange here. Okay, so then I have a couple of paper doilies that I wanted to wait to put on top so they stand out more. Plus, I think these look so pretty on the collages, especially if they're colored. But I don't have any that are just with a white doily on top. Like, just looks like actually like a lace doily. So I decided to go that route today. Plus, I usually end up putting ink all over everything anyway. And then I'll do one more. Maybe that wasn't wet enough under there. It's not wanting to grab. Alright, and then I did take out a couple, where did they go? Took out a couple other pieces and now I can't find them, of course. Oh well, it's covered for now, so that works. And then you can go in, and I know everything's covered now, but I just cut off a strip of this wrapping paper. I feel like I've been calling it wallpaper. Okay, wrapping paper. I took off just a whole strip, so I think I'm just gonna keep using it. But you know what? No, I'm not gonna get too picky. I was gonna fussy cut some of the roses out, but I won't do that. Right, and then I think I'm going to be done with this one and set this one aside, and then when it dries I will show you the next steps to adding even more items. Okay, so I let this dry, and then, if you can tell, I changed my sweatshirt, and then I can do the next step. So after I have all these on and done, that's when I would add maybe some smaller collage pieces, like maybe some of these just collage papers from the Dina Wakley collection from Ranger, or maybe even some vintage stamps or little words if you want. But the first part of what I do is usually stenciling and stamping. I said that a little mixed up, but so since this has some bright colors, I do want to continue the pretty bright colors throughout. So I'm going to use this Broken China Distress Oxide and the Mowed Lawn, and I will use a little bit of the Black Soot just because there are some darker elements, and I think that would be pretty still to add that in. And let me see. Ooh, so many options. Okay, and I think I'll do Dusty Concord. So let me see here. Do some of this stamp. Sorry, stencil. Jeez. And I'm gonna go in with this brush that I use when I'm doing multiple colors at once. I do have a brush set aside that I just wipe on a wet paper towel in between different colors. And I don't mind if the colors mix because this is just for fun, like collaging. You know, I'm not like trying to make a pretty card for someone. So I rub it on here if I have some space. And then let me arrange that a little. And then I'm gonna put this on. And it will bend up a little bit. It'll curl on the edges. I don't know if you can tell that mine's a little curled because as it's drying, but it's fine. It'll flatten out. And if it doesn't flatten out, I've just set it under a heavy book all night and then it did. But kind of just want to, I don't know, make it fun and pretty and different. Okay, and then just do a quick wipe of this and then do another stencil. I'm gonna do this feather one that I made. I'll do that purple. So this is so massive, so it will not actually be on just like one journaling card or something, but I do like really big background type stencils too, and I think this just has a really pretty design. I actually found this image online of a feather and I thought it was super pretty, so I just took it onto Photoshop and, you know, did what I had to do. Erase little parts of it, and put it on the Silhouette software, and then cut a stencil from it. Alright, so there's that one, and maybe a little bit of checkerboard. I'll do a little more. And I'll do that down here too. And I like that it's like dark here, a little bit more faded, and then this one is like, it's mixing with the last color I did on this stencil, so this one's like not even, if you can see it there, bright purple anymore. It's just like kind of purple, kind of blue, kind of, I think Vintage Photo was on here, so. And then I'm just going to do some of the honeycomb pattern in green, and then I'll be done with the bright colors. Alright, let me see where we've missed so far. And it gets the paper really, really well because it's a brush and I'm not using like a foam dauber or something. That would probably work, but this just works so well because the bristles are getting in the every little nook and cranny of this stencil. So I did over a little bit so that since the purple's still a little bit wet, so it kind of will mix together. Alright, then I'm going to be done with that and move on to some stamping once I find the lid. Okay, so I do want to use the black distress ink for some stamps. I really like to do this postage stamp that I got from Hobby Lobby probably. I just think it's really pretty. It's just kind of fun to add. I like to add it to my envelopes and stuff too for obvious reasons because you'd actually put that in the mail, but I don't know, it's really, really just a cute stamp. I got it on whatever 40% off or whatever sale they were having, so it was only a couple bucks, I think. Yeah, it says here $6.99. I think it was 50% off, so yeah, it's a pretty good deal for a stamp, I think. And then I'll do this big background music, sheet music stamp. I keep wanting to say music paper. I know the word for sheet music. Okay. So I'm just going to do it this way because it's just so big and I want to make sure I'm getting it. Press it well because I want as much of it to show up as possible. And this is kind of, it has this faded look just naturally because it's the distress ink. So it's not, you know what, let me try to show you. If I were to do something like this VersaFine pad, this one would show up a lot more intentional maybe it's wetter, or maybe it's the type of material that's used for the actual pad. I'm not really sure, but I'll show you the difference here. I love the look of the VersaFine. It's just that when I'm doing collages and more like abstract stuff, I just usually do that. So I usually do the Distress ink. I'll put it up here. Okay, so it's the middle of my stamp. Wasn't reaching the middle part of the paper because of the way that it's curling and all of that. But you can still see, I think, the difference between the VersaFine one with that's just more, get more detail out of it, versus the one with the Distress ink pad. It just already looks old and distressed, actually. So, get off some more ink there. There, that one showed up a little better in the middle, but it's more of a flat area of the paper. And just wipe this off. You can hear my son. He's out with my husband, and whenever I come in here, he knows I'm doing crafts. He wants to be invited. And then my husband called him away. Okay, so I'm done with that. And then I don't think I'm going to do any more collaging of little bits of like collage paper. I'm going to save those for like when I have a journaling card done and I want to add a little something more. So then the last thing I do is usually add some washi tape of some kind. So I just recently got this one. Okay, so I will put this just in random places where maybe it's a little bit more blank, or like right here it just looks like just one pattern. So sometimes I'll just add a little more there just for something else. And at this point it's perfectly fine if your glue is just barely tacky. Like my Mod Podge that I have on here it dries a lot slower than Mod Podge. Well, not a lot, but I mean Mod Podge dries pretty fast. And I think this maybe takes 50% longer just because I make it so wet and thin. But in the end it's the same product essentially, but since it's barely tacky still, it's holding onto the ink well and holding onto the washi tape really well. And then this is, I don't know where I got this one actually, but it's cute. It's a little pop of color, but not overwhelming. Put this here. And then, let me see. Well, a little bit more color. I'll do this one. This is just from my Etsy shop, just a pink with a white grid on it. And I really like washi tape because you can still see through it. And so it's, I don't know, it's just kind of adds another layer, just like collage paper, instead of covering up what's underneath it. Maybe it's harder to tell there, but you can like almost still read the words through this washi tape here. And of course, if the light hits it just right, you will have no idea what I'm talking about. I'll just sound crazy, but it's really nice. Okay, so I do all of those, and then usually I just like take a second, and sometimes I go through these masterboards really quickly, and so then I'll forget that, oh yeah, I wanted to add this or that or whatever. And then I'll kind of look for blank spaces, and if there's anything else I want to add, I do, but I really like the look of it right now. And once I cut it into journaling cards, if I want to add a couple more collage pieces or something because that specific spot is a little blank, I'll do that, but I don't know, I really like the look of it. So here I would be done, and I would set it aside for a few hours just to make sure that all the ink has settled, completely set, I should say set, not settled, has set, and that any glue is not tacky anymore. And then I will, once I'm all done with that, I'll be able to pull it out and start cutting it up. So I'm going to show you what that looks like next. So after you've done all of that stamping and everything, and you've let everything dry, you end up with something that looks somewhat like this. And I use a lot more scrapbook pages in this because I was doing scrapbook crafts making these pockets, and I had all those scraps, and I didn't want to throw them in the scrap bin just to fish them out later. So I will show you what the next step is. I have already gone around and trimmed off the edges, and I'll grab my paper trimmer. Oh, there it is. It's usually on the floor if Max has been in the room, because he'll just sit there and do this all day long. Just slide it, slide it, slide it. It's so cute. Okay. So I do want to have a couple journaling cards out of this, so I will make those. I'm trying to think, it's what, 11 inches? That's why I like having my cutting mat under here. I'm constantly referring to this. Okay, yeah, it's about 11 inches tall, roughly. Actually, that was pretty off. Let me see. 10 and 7/8. So I will do, okay, so they're going to be 5 something that way. I'll do 4 inches wide. I don't want them too big. I want to be able to fit in any journal. Okay, so I'll just cut this at 4 inches. And I use an older blade for these, and then if I want something to look perfect, I'll go and grab a new one and just swap it out, because I like it to have like less of a perfect edge, be just a little bit more torn. And so it might turn out a little torn, but it actually still cut pretty well, but still. So it doesn't, mine didn't want to go all the way through because I actually do have quite a few layers on this one, but you can tear it then from that, and it does give you a little bit of a torn edge look. And, you know, just kind of clean it up if you want, or you can just put it back through, flip it around, and measure again if you want. So let me see here. If this was 10 and 7/8, right? Okay, so 5.5, go down a 16th. Which are somewhat the same, not that it matters at all, except for my brain. Let's see if that went through. Almost. There we go. Okay, that's what I have, and here's a perfect example. So I have done a lot of layers on this masterboard, but when I didn't make sure it was perfectly down. I didn't smooth it 100%, so then when I cut it, it cut in the middle of one of my, you know, pages, and it has, let me see if I can get that up. It's coming up a little bit there on the edge. So then I will just go through with like my little, if I can find it here. Man, I am just so disorganized. Art glitter glue somewhere. Of course, hiding behind the massive Fabri-Tac bottle, or Fabri-Fix bottle. Okay, so I just have to go through, and I like this because it has that little teeny tiny tip. And just try to squeeze a little bit in there. And of course, in the end, it all looks the exact same because all you've just done is glued a bunch of paper down to paper. There's a little hole here, and you know what, it's gonna bubble a little bit anyway, so honestly it might be impossible to get this to work perfectly, go perfectly down when you're doing decoupage, because it's just not a perfect art form. They have ripples and bubbles and whatever, especially if you're doing multiple layers like you do with these collage masterboards. I'm just gonna check those quickly and we're good. Okay. So I have a couple small journaling cards, and the nice thing about using watercolor paper is that the back is automatically just ready to actually be written on if you want to, and you could just stamp on it and do whatever, but I really like to write in my junk journals, so I have those already cut down to size. And then let's do a couple tags. Let me see. I'll do the tags probably 3 inches wide, just so that there's still enough room to write on there if I want to, or someone else wants to. I guess I don't know which journal these are going in yet. Let's see. There we go. This one I'm gonna flip over and cut it 3 inches again. And then same thing, I'll cut them in half. So 5.5 minus a 16th. That one's coming apart. Okay. So do a quick check. This one's actually doing pretty well. And it doesn't have to be perfect, especially if you're going for a more vintage look. But, so then these ones, I will take and find my scissors, and I'll cut these ones to look like a tag. And then you can just flip one over, line up the tops. Right, and obviously they don't have to be perfect. And I always, always, always punch my tags. It just drives me crazy not to have them punched already. I'm getting full. Alright, and then I have 2 tags out of there already collaged and ready to go. And then I'm going to do one. I want one to be really big for sure, because I often have like these really big pockets that have room for like a huge journaling card, so I just like to have one. Every couple masterboards I'll just make one really big one. Plus then you can get more of the feel of the collage, which I really like. So I'm just making this one 5 inches wide, and I'm not sure how tall because I have not been paying attention to how many inches are left on this page. Okay, so there's a much bigger one, and you know what? I'm actually going to make that into a tag. But before I do that, I'll take this one and make some extra small ones. I'll do 4 inches. Come on. I'll cut that one off. Oh well. Alright. So I can put that up. I'm going to cut this into a giant tag. So I've decided which one I want to be the top. I really don't want to cut the music washi tape because it's so pretty. I'll just because of the top. Come on. Just line it up with the other corner so you can make sure that your sides look even. If not, the tag will just look funky. I don't know, a lot of things don't have to be perfect in crafting and junk journaling, but the tags to look even on each side just looks really bad in my opinion. Alright. So then we have a giant tag, which is gonna act kind of like a journaling card anyway, except it has that cute tag top I can tie a piece of fabric to or something. And then I got a couple littler ones here. I'm just checking for gaps that I need to fill in. I think we're good. And see this one, because I've been using my maybe you can't see it, bad blade, it's got like more of torn edges. Look, it's not all perfect, which in the end, I mean, I pick at them anyway just out of habit, but in the end it'll look nice and look grungy and vintagey. So, okay, so then take these. Oh, these are bigger than my original. That's hilarious. These are even bigger than my original journaling cards. And then after that, I usually just go through and add ink to them. Just distress oxide. And just in some of my masterboards, I wish I had an example around me, are don't look so grungy and vintagey, so I probably would do a pretty color, like a broken china or dusty concord or something. But since these ones look so grungy anyway, and I'm just gonna go in with vintage photo because I know it'll look good on them. And I don't keep the same color throughout excuse me, throughout my journals. I will, like, some stuff will be inked up in vintage photo, and then other stuff will have colors, and I don't care. I don't match all that stuff. Just to make it look a little bit grungier. And I don't ever write on these sides anyway, so it doesn't matter. Oh, one last step I was going to do, but I didn't want to do it in the beginning because I wanted them to be a little bit different. So this is just a stencil I cut with my silhouette. And I do like to go in afterwards, and I wait until it after I've stuck this in the ink and inked stuff so that it's not very intense. I don't want the color to be super intense. And you can't really tell from looking at this, but this has been used multiple times. And I just go through and just gently hit them, and then it just has that faded look. But I didn't want to do this during the collage portion because I didn't want to have the same thing on each. So start with that, and then I can go through and do like a different one on this one, which I should just do right now. Let's see. Oh, another thing I like to do is to save bubble wrap when I get, I forget what this was, bought something breakable from a store. And so I just save the bubble wrap, and then I go in and press it on here. Right on my ink pad. And spilled my glitter glue apparently. And then I go in and press this on there. And I wait a second because it's obviously not meant to transfer ink, so it doesn't just like readily, you know, the ink's just like sitting on it because it's just plastic. So I give it a second to just soak into the paper in the right way. And it's a noticeable difference if you give it a second to wait, like this, or let me just do it on the other side because, you know, why not? I'll show you what happens if you do it quickly. So you can go by whichever, you know, look you're going for. But one you can tell hasn't had time to soak in, and one has. So whatever look you're going for. You can hold it on there longer or take it off right away. So put that over here. And then I'll probably just keep going along and inking and stamping. And sometimes I do the back side, sometimes I don't. Since I don't know what journal it's going in or anything, I might actually wait to ink the back side until I know, because it might look really cute to have purple ink around it if it's going on a page that has blues and greens and pinks or something. Or it might look good to just stay with vintage, so I will actually wait for that part. You know what, this is driving me crazy. I left the pin out of my glitter glue. Okay. I was hoping to get work done today, but I am heavily reliant on my external hard drive because I design ebooks and I hold all my projects there, and it just completely quit today. The light will come on like it wants to be on, but then it won't be recognized by my computer, and I have tried everything. I've been working on it for hours, and I'm assuming it's just because the cord is bad, but I've bought so many new cords for this because it's kind of like a cheaper hard drive, and so I just went and bought one of those fancy Wi-Fi hard drive things you don't have to actually be physically connected to get your stuff on there and to pull files from it. And so that'll come in a couple days, but until then work was just honestly giving me a headache because I had to keep re-downloading all the files that I should have had downloaded already. So I'm just going to round corners just for a little bit of a different look. I don't need a pile of perfectly identical stuff, you know. And you can just chomp like opposite corners and leave those two pointy or whatever. I mean, there's a million different looks you can go for here. Okay, just do that before so I don't waste time inking parts I'm just going to chomp off. Not sure if that's even picking up like what this is doing, but it just makes it look like I didn't just make a pretty piece, you know, because we have the newspaper isn't very worn, so it kind of looks brand new, and this just kind of makes it look, I don't know, like you found it in a drawer of an old dresser you haven't looked in for a long time. All right, one more. So anyway, instead of working today, I am crafting. But I justified it because I am putting these on YouTube, so technically that's work of some kind, right? I definitely don't see YouTube as work though. I just do videos for fun. I don't like stick to a schedule or anything like that. Okay, so I made a few more stencils. Let me pull my stash out over here. I just like to make them all look a little different. So this is just a Tim Holtz one with a script, which actually looks really pretty. I made this one, looks a little bit like, oh my gosh. Can't think of the name of it right now. Oh, I haven't done this one in a while. This is one that you probably can't see very well. Maybe you can. It's just like a brick pattern. So do that, and I just go really lightly. So I don't want to cover up anything. And then I, of course, did not re-dip it in my ink. Okay, so I'm not sure how well you can see the brick pattern there. One's a lot more faint than the other, but everything just adds another layer of texture and interest and just is pretty to look at. That's really all it is. So I also cut this one. These ones are really flimsy. I actually just cut these with acetate sheets because I was like, why not? I have a cutting machine, may as well use it. But this is, yeah, maybe you can see it there. Just, oh my gosh, honeycomb. I can't think of any of my words today. I slept great last night. I actually think that might be part of the problem. I had so much sleep and my body's not used to it. And of course I re-inked this right before I did it, which I said I didn't want to do. But, so it's a little darker than I was hoping, but it actually still looks pretty good. So that one, and then let me see, I made this like, I can't think of the names of any of these patterns right now. So I just have this one, which actually, there we go. Just another layer of something pretty to look at here. And then, let's see here. And I'll just checkerboard one on both tags. I really like this one. Ooh, never mind, I like this one too. Okay, I'll do different. So I really like this pattern. It was actually really difficult for me to figure out the pattern to cut it. And somehow in my brain I had it backwards, so it ended up taking off that white border I like to keep around on, but whatever, it works. So this and the acetate are things that I just had these materials on hand for making like dividers and stuff for my ring planners, but I've been out of ring planners for so long that it didn't really, I was like, why am I keeping this? So I found another use. So this one is just like random lines. It kind of, there you go. It kind of looks like a rubber band wrapped around something. That one was fun. That one I made just from scratch in like Photoshop or InDesign or one of those things. That was fun. I was just feeling like designing some new stuff that day. There we go. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And you know what? That one barely showed up. I think I waited too long. There we go. Okay. So that one's kind of cool. Anyway, this is just how I use masterboards, and I like to make up a few of them at once, set them aside to completely dry for the day, and then I'll come in and just, you whip out a bunch of these, and this actually probably took like 3 times longer than it would have because I was chatting the whole time and explaining what I'm doing. But really, this is like, it's super quick, and you have a whole bunch of unique journaling cards, and they can look completely different, you know, from the same board. And you can make your board look different by literally only using one piece of a book page and one piece of wallpaper and just, or I keep saying wallpaper, and one piece of wrapping paper or wallpaper or whatever you want. And that way they all look very different from each other. I don't mind mine, you know, a group of them looking somewhat similar being from the same masterboard, but the options are seriously endless. And it's just supposed to be fun. Have fun with it. So yeah, I hope it gave you some sort of a good idea on what you can do with these. This is just what I've been making a lot of lately. So I have a lot of journaling cards on hand. I have a huge stack here from different boards and stuff that I've done. And some of them I'll add more collage pieces to the back afterwards and leave like almost no journaling space. But for those ones, I would just, the ones that you really can't write on anymore because you've just done so much collaging and stamping and stenciling, I will just use those to put a picture on in the journal. So just paste one on or print one from my Canon IV or whatever. So I'm just making up a huge stack of these, and I just want to have them all on hand so when I have a journal I can just, you know, stick them all in and be done with that part. So making them all at once is incredible. It saves so much time, and you just have a whole bunch of homemade ephemera to be using. So alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!